This is Mac OS Ken.
Food for thought from a Wall Street analyst. Hurry up and wait for tap to pay in the EU. And is blue bubble, green bubble really the fight we want to have? It is Monday, the 22nd of April, 2024. I'm Ken Ray, and this is news from Mac OS Ken, brought to you by yours truly and sponsored by Pen Chalet, selling exquisite fountain pens for over 10 years with special offers for Mac OS Ken listeners at penchalet.com/MacOSKen. This show is also supported by people like you, patrons through Patreon. Find out more and add your support at patreon.com/MacOSKen. Supposition from Bernstein research analyst Tony Sacconaghi that is somewhat depressing, but totally sensible. And when is the last time you heard me use the word Sacconaghi and sensible in the same sentence? Seeking Alpha had the analyst issuing a note last Thursday saying despite excitement headed into WWDC, Apple's real AI news for 2024 probably won't hit until the fall. Quoting his note, "We expect most AI features to be unveiled with the iPhone in September as opposed to at WWDC, consistent with other key software features like Dynamic Island, Siri, and FaceTime, all of which were introduced at the time of phone launch." As for what AI-powered things he expects, Seeking Alpha says Bernstein expects the iPhone 16 at minimum will offer AI features similar to the Pixel 8 and Galaxy 24. Other possibilities for AI integration include Apple Music, Xcode, Pages, and Keynote. Apparently seen as outliers by the analyst are a multimodal Siri and an AI wellness coach. That said, Sacconaghi says the timeline on these is less clear. He also expects some sort of generative AI LLM offering, though whether that'll be through partnerships or Apple rolling its own is uncertain. Now, I said his supposition about AI announcements was depressing and sensible. Watch me waffle and wiggle. To me, it's somewhere between possible and likely that Apple will have a lot of announcements at WWDC that'll mean something to developers and nerds and speak to tremendous possibility. They may announce a neat feature or two, then, as Sacconaghi said, really let the planet have it with the iPhone announcement later this year. At the same time, there are reasons to think that Apple will be more forthcoming. The company said everything there was to say about iPhone when it announced iPhone. The company said everything there was to say about Apple Vision Pro when it announced Apple Vision Pro. Is Apple's version of AI going to be a thing for iPhone, or is it going to be a thing for everything? If it's the latter, Apple might say a lot more. Again, though, I'm just messing with ya. We'll know more when we do. In the meantime, Mr. Sacconaghi has a market perform rating on Apple shares, basically a hold rating. His price target on the shares is $195. As a piece from Apple 3.0 pointed out, with Apple closing Friday at $165, what once looked like a bearish target now looks almost bullish. So this is kind of crazy. One of the steps Apple took toward compliance with the European Union's Digital Markets Act earlier this year had to do with digital wallets. As part of the changes introduced in Europe in iOS 17.4, a piece from Mac Rumors says Apple gave third-party payment apps and banks direct access to the NFC chip, allowing for non-Apple Pay, tap-to-pay payment options. Now, according to the piece, the European Commission will approve that. And when I say now, I mean next month maybe. The EC is set to approve Apple's plan to open up tap-and-go mobile payments as soon as next month, according to Reuters, according to Mac Rumors. How does one say, hurry up and wait in European? Senator Elizabeth Warren, Democrat in Massachusetts, is really upset about the blue bubble, green bubble iMessage thing. 9 to 5 Mac had the senator hitting the wreckage that used to be Twitter last week, posting a video message. The report quoted her as saying, "Green texts on iPhones, they're ruining relationships." That's right. Non-iPhone users everywhere are being excluded from group texts, from sport team chats to birthday chats to vacation plan chats. They're getting cut out, missing out on plans and conversations. And who's to blame here? Apple. That's just one of the dirty tactics that Apple uses to keep a stranglehold on the smartphone market, she went on to say. Apple has used its monopoly on smartphones to lock Americans into services and amass billions of dollars in profits. Apple even takes a cut every time you use Tap to Pay and has blocked a new app that would have let Android users finally use iMessage and get those blue texts. That's why last month the Department of Justice sued Apple for its broad-based exclusionary conduct, and that's the right thing to do. It's time to break up Apple's monopoly now. I don't get it. I don't get it. Apple does a lot of questionable things, and people should question those things. But this one has always seemed odd to me. I had a couple of friends a few years ago who had Android phones. They hated the blue bubble, green bubble thing. My Android friends did. So they said, could we use Signal? And we did. And we still do, even though they both have iPhones now. I'm in another group chat where 2 or 3 of the 6 people in the chat have Android phones. And you know what we do? We chat. Every year, my aunt and uncle text me happy birthday and Merry Christmas, and I get those messages in a green bubble, and I thank them. If friendships are ending because of the blue bubbles versus green bubbles, trust me when I say that is not Apple's fault. And if you're going to try to bring up kids bullying other kids, I got news. Kids that want to bully are going to find a reason. I had a group of kids physically attack me one time when I was in the 3rd grade, apparently because I was sitting under a tree minding my own business. Jerks will be jerks. The color of their text bubbles has nothing to do with it. Thank you for coming to my Ken Talk. A reminder, today is Earth Day and Apple is marking it with an Apple Watch Activity Challenge. To complete the challenge, says a piece from Mac Rumors, Apple Watch owners will need to complete a workout that lasts for 30 minutes or longer with the activity recorded through the workout app or an app that adds information to the health app. Record your 30-minute workout and you'll get a virtual medallion plus some animated Earth Day focused stickers, which you will look at once and promptly forget about. More news in a moment, but first I am very happy to welcome a new sponsor to this show, Pen Chalet, selling exquisite pens for over 10 years. Why use a fountain pen? Personally, I use a fountain pen for the same reason I use a Mac. I could do work on a Windows machine, but there's a style, an elegance, a workhorse nature to the Mac that makes a Windows machine less than ideal. To me, same goes for a fountain pen. A big pen will work, but a fountain pen is better. I write 3 pages in my journal almost every morning, and I use a fountain pen to do it, currently a Pilot Metropolitan. If you have never used a fountain pen before, to me, the Pilot Metropolitan is the perfect place to start. So I had an idea. I asked Pen Chalet to put together some special packs, starter boxes for macOS Ken listeners. Bit of ink, a Rhodia tablet, which is great for fountain pens, and one of 3 pens, including the Pilot Metropolitan. I'll tell you about the others throughout the week, including a kit hitting later this week with one of my favorite, more ornate pens. To get one of the starter boxes, go to penchalet.com/macOSKen. The pen, paper, and ink are all packaged together at a discount. penchalet.com/macOSKen. Now, if you know about fountain pens and want to buy outside the boxes, go for it. Roller balls, ballpoints, dip pens, fancier pens, they got a lot of those. Shop their selection and get 10% off your purchase with code MOK10. That's code MOK10 for 10% off purchases besides the starter boxes. Or start with one of those at penchalet.com/MacOSKen. Fountain pens are things I love, and I love the selection at Pen Chalet. See what they have for you at penchalet.com/MacOSKen. And a huge thanks to Pen Chalet for sponsoring today's show. If you want an Apple Watch Ultra 2 without paying the Apple Watch Ultra 2 Ultra price, have you considered stealing? I'm kidding. Have you considered Apple's Refurbished store, though? Mac Rumors says Apple's rough and tumble chronometer started turning up last week among Apple's like-new offerings in China, the UK, and the US. Here in the States, the piece says Refurbished Ultra 2 models with the blue, orange, or white ocean band are available for $679 compared to $799 brand new. Apple gives all of its refurbished products a good going over before putting them back out for sale. Apple Care Plus is also available. That said, there's no guarantee that every model will be available at any given time. If you're in the market, though, Apple's refurbished market may be your friend. After months of derision, rumor has Apple ending its FineWoven experiment. Reports everywhere over the weekend, including one from 9to5Mac, had Twitter leaker Kosutami indicating that Apple has stopped or is stopping production on its leather replacement accessories. Kosutami is said to be a reliable leaker, though the name is not one with which I am familiar. 9to5Mac has little problem believing this rumor, though, adding, it was perhaps significant that Apple downplayed the rollout of FineWoven last week when it was otherwise touting the environmental progress it's made in the last 12 months. Without announcing it, Apple subsidiary Beats seems to have announced the return of the Beats Pill speaker. While the device was discontinued in 2022, a piece from Apple Insider says NBA superstar LeBron James was spotted at Saturday's playoff game in Denver, sporting what appears to be an unreleased Pill speaker from Beats. Saying spotted makes it sound like there was detective work or something. The LA Lakers posted an Instagram reel that showed James, clad in black, carrying a silver or pearlescent Beats Pill speaker clear as day. That's why I say Beats seems to have announced the return without actually announcing it. For its part, Apple Insider is treating the reel as an announcement of sorts. As this new pill speaker hasn't yet been acknowledged by the company, the piece says pricing and release date have not yet been revealed. Xbox users without Apple TV Plus are being offered an offer. 9to5Mac says owners of Microsoft's game console can nab a 3-month free trial of Apple's video streaming service. To redeem the offer, the piece says, simply open the TV app on your Xbox console. According to the report, the offer is available to new and qualified returning subscribers, whatever qualified means. That's 9to5Mac saying whatever qualified means. If you're interested, you got time to figure that part out. The piece says the offer is good through the 7th of July. And finally today, news of a few Apple TV Plus titles flying high on the streaming charts at Reelgood. On the TV side, which I don't understand because it's all TV at this point, but fine. On the TV side, Cult of Mac says Apple TV Plus has 2 shows in the top 10 for the week ending the 17th of April. The Michael Douglas historical drama Franklin was in the 7th spot, while the Colin Farrell detective series Sugar cracked the top 5, showing up at number 4. Over on the movie side, which I don't understand because it's all TV at this point, but fine. On the movie side, the spy comedy Argylle made it into the top 10 with a bullet. Actually, lots of bullets based on the trailer. That's a charting joke followed by a tease. I'll tell you where it landed on the chart in a moment. But first, A little over a week ago, I asked whether any of you had watched Argylle and what you thought of it. One person wrote in to me, and I totally forgot about it until this story. Ken, no relation, wrote in saying, "So, since you asked, I decided to watch Argylle. This is the type of movie I typically save for long airplane flights, but for you, I watched it at home." Hey, don't blame me, pal. I didn't ask you to watch it. I just said, tell me what you think if you do. Ken continues, "In the end, I really enjoyed it. Maybe I misread it, but my impression was that this was meant to be a ridiculous, predictable movie that hits on all the spy movie cliches. This was not a movie that was ever meant to be taken the least bit seriously. Having said that, it did have a great cast, and I was surprised by a couple of the twists. The major downside was that at 2 hours and 19 minutes, it was probably 30 to 40 minutes longer than it needed to be. So my advice, check it out the next time you have a long airplane flight." So says Ken, again, no relation. He also told me I rock, and honestly he should know, since he also rocks. Maybe it's the great cast that did it, I don't know, but Argylle premiered at number 1 on the Reelgood list for the week ending the 17th of April. That put it ahead of such films as The Zone of Interest, Poor Things, Oppenheimer, Anatomy of a Fall, and American Fiction. macOS Ken, brought to you by me, and sponsored by Pen Chalet, selling exquisite fountain pens for over 10 years with special offers for macOS Ken listeners at penchalet.com/macOSKen. This show is also supported by people like you, patrons through Patreon. Find out more and add your support at patreon.com/macOSKen. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media, online at backbeatmedia.com. You can reach me a couple of ways. Info at macosken.com or call 716-780-4080. Until next time, that is news from macOS Ken. I'm Ken Ray.
Ciao.